Shalom, shalom, shalom. I'm going to start out this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops, a great millstone while learning truth 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophets, servants scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, and shalom to you, Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere in your children, shalom. And in today's video is going to be a video from Dabu77. And, it's from 8 hours ago. But as you can see from the title, it said lots of empty shelves, huge cyber attack on whole food suppliers sparked mass store, shortages, right? And, this is happening right around the time where you got all of these different type of raids and, protests and things of that nature ultimately occurring around the U.S. But we know ultimately that there will be food shortages. Famine are all part of the prophecies, man. And those are going to be the plagues that Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah is ultimately going to bring upon this place, Babylon, the great America, and to a lot of these Americans, man. A lot of people are going to suffer from a lack of food, man. And I'm going to get a precept real quick. Well, a few precepts before we get into the video, just touching on famine, man, and how it's going to come, because we know that famine is a part of prophecy. And I'm going to start off with this precept that I got. This is St. Matthew chapter 24, verse 7. And this was when the disciples, which later on became apostles, minus in Judas Iscariot, who ultimately betrayed our Lord and Savior. But they asked Lord Yahweh Shai what will be the signs of his coming, right? And Lord Yahweh Shai gave them all the signs, man, and what will be happening in the last days, right? And it says, for nation shall rise against nation, right? And kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, right? And pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. And we ultimately know all of these events are ultimately taking place around the world in different areas, and also in this place, America. But what I really want to focus on is that famine, right? Because the Lord said that there will be scarcity of food in the last days. And we know ultimately that we're living in those latter times where you're going to have these food shortages happening. You already just had the CEO of Walmart. He came out, I believe, maybe like a month and a half ago. And he told the people that in the near future, towards July, towards August, that there's going to be empty shelves in a lot of these Walmarts, Targets, and these stores that these people are going to, man. And we see everything that is popping off with these little protest situations and things of that nature. People are already, allegedly looting and doing stuff like that. And we know these things are going to only get worse and worse, man. Right? So I'm going to go right here. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 6. And I'm going to start at verse 22. And it said, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, right? The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty, right? And those storehouses is going into all of these different stores, man. These Walmarts, these Targets, all of these different places, your food mart, wherever it may be where people go to get food and receive, all type of different food items. Those places are going to be empty in the near future, man. And this is going to be that time where you're going to have to truly trust in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. And that's what the Lord's elect is going to do in these times. They're going to fully trust in the Lord because they know that the Lord is going to make a way for them in these times, man. But those that are not of the Lord's elect, ultimately they're going to, ultimately find themselves in this situation, having a lack of food to eat and not knowing what to do and, bugging out and losing their minds and things of that nature, and we know ultimately that, perishing by famine is a bad way to go out, man, and we know ultimately the Lord is going to use famine as a tool of judgment to bring forth upon a lot of wicked people, man. Right. And I'm going to go to a precept just touching on that. This is Lamentations chapter 4, verse 9. It said, they that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. Right. For these pine away stricken through for want of the fruit of the field. Right. So we know ultimately that, guess what? A lot of people, they're going to perish due to these famines. And it said it's better to perish with the sword. Right. Meaning a killing instrument like a gun or something like that. Because, when you get hit with something like that, it's going to be quick and painless. But to actually, have to go through suffering, not having food, that's going to be a terrible way to go out, man. And that's how the Lord is going to judge a lot of these people in these times, man, through them not having nothing to eat. That's why people are going to resort to cannibalism, and that's part of prophecy. And I'm going to go to a precept just touching on that to prove it, because the Lord said that, cannibalism is going to come back in the latter days, right? These people are going to have to resort to that because they're going to know that the Lord is ultimately not dealing with them. They're not going to know what to do in these times when all hell is breaking loose. The stores are empty. They're going to resort to, eating one another, man, like in that movie, The Road, that's what was happening in that movie. People were so down bad and lacking food and necessities that they needed, that they just resorted to eating humans, man. And that's what a lot of these people are going to do. They're already eating humans anyway, man. With a lot of the food that these people eat at these fast food restaurants, that they're ultimately thinking is, real meat when it's not, but so these people, it won't matter to them when cannibalism come in the future. They're already going to be used to eating it. Right. So this is 2 Esdras chapter 15, verse 58. It said, they that be in the mountains shall die of hunger and eat their own flesh and drink their own blood, for very hunger of bread and thirst of water. Right. So ultimately, these people are going to resort to eating each other, man, in the near future, just because they're not going to have any food to eat. Right. And we know these people here in America, they can't go without eating, man. These people's bodies are not used to fasting, going days and things of that nature without eating, man. They got to eat all the time, at all day, every day, man. 24 hours a day, these people are eating stuff in their faces, man. So they're going to resort to eating each other when these stores get empty, all right? So, and I'm going to go to another precept, just touching on that that famine is a judgment from the Lord, right? This is Ecclesiastes chapter 39, and I'm going to start at verse 28, but the point is at 29. It said, there be spirits that I created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them, right? This verse 29. It said, fire and hail and famine, right? And death. All these were created for vengeance, man, right? So that spirit of famine, not having any food to eat and perishing ultimately by that, is a spirit created for vengeance, man. And that's what the Lord is going to give out to a lot of people, man. That's going to be their fate, ultimately not having nothing to eat and suffering and having to deal with watching the Lord's elect. Lord's will we be at that number, basically eating and being taken care of and stuff like that, while they're just in a pitiful case, man. And that's what's finna be a lot of these people face, mainly of our people, man, the 2/3 of the nation of Israel. Lord's will, we're not of that 2/3 remnant, of course, that we can be of the elect, that we know the Lord is going to preserve us in these times, right? But this is 2 Esdras chapter 15, verse 49. It said, I will send plagues upon thee, right? Widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence to waste thy houses with destruction and death. So the Lord is going to use that famine, man, to kill a lot of people, man. And if you're not the Lord's elect, this could possibly be your judgment, man. Right along with everything else that the Lord is going to unleash in these latter days. So, it's about to get real serious out here, man, for these people of the world. So I'm going to get into this video so we can basically listen to what it is the guy's basically saying. But food shortages are coming, man. It's all part of prophecy, and these things are going to happen when these people least expect it, man. Right. And let me go to that. That's a precept, too, in 2 Esdras, I believe. Bear with me. Because a lot of people think themselves to be in good case, man. Bear with me. Right. 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 This is 2 Esdras chapter 16. Right. And I'm gonna start at verse 21. It says, behold, victuals, right? And when you go into that word victuals, it goes into like resources, food, things of that nature, right? It says, behold, victuals shall be so good, cheap upon earth, right? Which is what you see happening now. You go into a so-called McDonald's where these people like to go to eat. You can get you a burger for probably $2, $3 and things of that nature. You go in Walmart and get you a $1 bag of chips, all of these different types of things, right? So these people think themselves to be in good case, seeing that all of this stuff is happening. Like, oh, food is still cheap. Things don't seem as worse as it's about to get, to these people here in Babylon, because they're asleep, man. So they don't think it's going to get worse, but it's about to, right? And it says, cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, right? That's why these people are not panicking, man. They're not panicking yet, but it's about to set in truly when everything really hits the fan, man. Right? Then, mind you, you still got Trump. He put those tariffs on those other countries, man, to where America's ports, right, which is like their commerce and how they receive their goods and their foods from all of these different types of countries, right? They have not been getting a lot of those freights and trailers and stuff in, man, due to those tariffs that Trump put on a lot of these countries, man. So this place really doesn't have that much food in reserve, man. So it's only a matter of time for these people start seeing these empty stores, man, right? And it said, and even then shall evils, right, meaning bad times, grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion, man. So that's what Yahweh Shimmy Abishai is getting ready to bring upon these people, man. You know, and Lord's will, we pray we don't get caught up in the midst of it. But it's coming upon these people, man. Right? Everything is happening at one time. Right? So I'm going to get into this video. But before I start, I want to say fair use. Fair use on the 1976 Copyright Act. I'm not getting paid for this video. This is only for educational purposes only.
This is Dabu 7. It looks like the warning from my last video has rang true as store shelves are empty. And we were warned about this by a guy that worked in this industry that came to work and had nothing to do. And he warned that this was going to happen. Some are asking, how can this happen this day and age where the food supply is disrupted in this manner? They're now coming out and just straight up saying a big cyber attack on Whole Food supplier has sparked all these shortages. As you can see here, shelves empty all over the place. People kind of freaking out about this with the timing of other things happening across the country. Some feel like this is kind of a setup. They look to have this back in order by the weekend, but they can't guarantee that. When you're dealing with a cyber attack, sometimes they're ransom attacks. We don't know how deep this goes. We do know from the insider that I shared in my last video, he had said that he went in and he assumed that this is what was happening because there was nothing to be done and they were down all weekend and there was no response. There was like no quick fix. Wasn't any word on anything being fixed. They're just trying to calm the public down right now, saying we'll have everything fixed hopefully by this weekend. By Sunday is what they're targeting. So just want to share this and get it out there that the guy was right and the warning was right. And unfortunately, people are seeing a hit at the store. If you guys are, let me know. Not everyone is going to see this because it's only coming from this supplier. But definitely these stores connected to it are seeing it big time. Again, let me know in the comment section. Join me for the live streams Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Dabu 77.
Right. So you basically hear what it is that he's saying in the video. You know, that basically you got food shortages happening in these different types of stores. And we know that these things will begin to, you know, affect all of these other different stores. You know, it may be only affecting certain places as of now, but we know ultimately this is going to be a widespread thing that's going to spread all throughout Babylon and Great America, man. You know, and these people won't have food in the near future, man. Only those that are going to be taken care of in these times are the Lord's elect. You know, those are the only people the Lord is going to feed, clothe, shelve, do all of the different types of things to aid and to keep stable in these times. These people here in America are going to be in a pitiful case, man. These 2/3 and these other heathens, right? So this is Psalms chapter 37, verse 25, just going into basically how the Lord is going to provide for his elect, man, that remnant, right? He's going to keep them stable in these times during the famine because we know these things are going to come. But, you know, the elect trusting Yahweh Shem Yahushai know that the Lord is going to be with them in these times and is going to give them the things that they need, right? This is Psalms 37 and 25 in the KJV. This is King David. He said, I have been young and now I'm old. Yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken nor his seed begging bread, right? So ultimately, the Lord is going to take care of those who are of his remnant, man, in these times of the famine. You know, they're going to have food to eat. They're going to have, you know, coverings and all of these different types of things while everybody else is out here, you know, bugging out and having the result to cannibalism and having the result to, you know, leaning into their own understanding, eating animals, everything that these people are ultimately going to do, man, because the Lord is not going to be with them, right? This is Isaiah chapter 65, verse 13, another precept backing off that. It said, therefore, thus saith the Lord power, behold, my servants shall eat. Who are the Lord's servants? This goes into the prophets, right? He said, shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servant shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servant shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Right? This is verse 14. It said, behold, my servant shall sing for joy of heart, but ye shall cry for sorrow of heart and shall howl for vexation of spirit. Right? And we're going to look at that word vexation of spirit for edification's sake. This is what a lot of people are about to be in the near future. Mainly 2/3 of our people and these other heathens. These people are going to be in a vexed state of mind. You know, mainly our people for not taking heed to these warnings that the men of the Lord have been given to these people. You know, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who've been warning these people of what's to come. They've been, you know, tooting their nose at it, not taking heed to these warnings, you know, shunning it off, saying that, oh, that'll never happen. You know, these people about to see, man, right? This is vexation of spirit. It goes into a state of being troubled, distressed, or frustrated, both emotionally and spiritually, right? So these people are about to be very frustrated, man, emotionally and spiritually, right? Spiritually is going to be because they're going to know that the men of the Lord that was warning them was telling them the truth all along. They just didn't want to take heed to it because they rather be wicked, right? So they didn't take heed to these warnings. And they're going to regret it in these times we're about to come into, man. Right. And physically, they're going to be, you know, in pitiful case because they're not going to have anything to eat. You know, the Lord is not going to be dealing with them in these times. They won't have any comfort. They won't have any peace. They won't have any hope, man. All of that is going to be, you know, taken away from them, you know. But, you know, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Just a little quick update on, you know, things that are happening. But, you know, food shortages are coming, man, you know, because it's all a part of the prophecies. And we know that, you know, these things are going to take place. We just pray, Lord's will we be the elect, of course, that when these things do begin to happen, that the Lord is going to take care of us in these times, you know. So that's everything. Till the next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect.